Coming to you live and direct from Now Valley Entertainment.
Now, you think Kell Brook's going to vacate? You don't think he'll come back down and defend that title against you?
Well, according to his interview, he said he's gonna vacate. So, hopefully vacate because I don't feel like waiting until next summer to, to fight him because he has a broken eye socket, so he's gonna have surgery and that's gonna take some time.
Now, you saw that fight, obviously. Do you think that he did well in that fight? How did you assess it once it was all done?
Well, I thought he did better than everybody else expected. I actually put $400 on him. Yeah, I actually betted on him to win. Just because.
What's up, boxing fans? This is TBE, back at you again. All right, so you saw it for yourself. Errol the Truth Spence bet $400 on Kell Brook to beat Golovkin. I just played the clip. You just saw it. You saw him say it from his own mouth. Okay? So, he thought that Kell Brook would beat Golovkin. Now, you got to really, what does that mean? We're going to analyze that now and come up with a, what he's really saying, okay? Now, the first thing you got to notice is what he said when Radio Raheem, by the way, shout out to Radio Raheem, when Radio Raheem asked him, well, Errol, how do you think that Kell Brook did against Golovkin? You saw the fight. How did he do? What did you think? And this is what now did Errol say? Well, I thought he did better than everybody thought he would do. No, he didn't say that. He said, I thought he did better than everybody else thought he would do. Now, whoa. So what that's telling you is that he separated himself from everybody else. He's telling you that he was convinced. He said even though everybody else thought that Kell Brook would probably lose, Errol Spence, was convinced that Kell Brook was going to win that fight. Okay? He said everybody else. So he didn't put himself with everybody. He separated himself from everybody else and he said he did better than what everybody else thought he would have done. Okay? So that's big. That's huge, So that tells me, a lot about Errol Spence. For one thing, he's a very honest guy. Like I said, I always thought he was an honest guy and a likable guy as well. And he's a very humble guy as well. He's, I really like this guy, even though I think that Bush's gonna beat him. I really like him a lot. And it also tells me something else about him is that he knows boxing. Okay, because you have a lot of people out there who claim that I watch all some of these channels and they claim that they know about boxing and they analyze, but a lot of these people don't know what they're talking about most of the time. They just talking to be talking, and it's YouTube, so anybody can get on YouTube and talk, and they don't really know how to analyze fights. Because at the end of the day, when you look at that Kell Brook Golovkin fight, just like Errol Spence said, like I was convinced that Kell Brook would win that fight, and I'm still convinced he'd have won that fight if his eye didn't get injured. Okay, if you really look at that fight, you can see that if Kell Brook's eye didn't get injured, he would have won that fight. I don't really care what anybody else is saying because they look up. Accidents happen in fights. Okay, people get head butted, this, that, all kind of different things. People get broken jaws, broken ankles. They twist their ankle or whatever, and they can't continue the fight. So accidents happen. These things happen in fights. So it just so happens that that happened to Kell Brook, and so Golovkin got lucky in that fight, as far as I'm concerned, you know, and that's basically what happened. He got a break, okay, but I'm gonna say one thing. Even though I'm saying that, I'm gonna say something else as well. And if you saw my analysis prior to that fight, about the fight, you will see that I said a couple of things about Book, because I mean, again, even though I think Book is gonna beat Spence, and I thought that he could have beaten Golovkin, there's something about Book that he got to tighten up on, and I say it all the time, and that's his defense. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, his defense is good," but no, it's not good. It's good. It's not great. Let's put it to you like that. Okay, his defense is good, but it's not great. It could be much better. Okay, and I think he got to really tighten up on his defense. And so when you're in a ring fighting, there's certain things that's in your control, and there's certain things that's out of your control. Okay, like getting your eye socket broken in a fight is something that you could avoid, really, okay, in a sense. So, I mean, accidents do happen, but you can minimize accidents, you know what I mean, by being on point. And I think his defense needs to be more on point. And, he tends to get hit more than he really has to. Now I know he got a strong jaw and he could take a punch, and we saw that in Golovkin fight, but just because you have a strong chin don't mean you should take a punch. And so we saw that he took the punch and he got his eye socket broken. So, to me, he really got to tighten up on his defense, and I think he should do that in this fight, because again, when I saw that what Spence said about the Golovkin and Brook fight, it kind of made my respect for Spence go up about 4 or 5 notches right away, because I realized that this guy really knows boxing. Okay, he knows his boxing. He's a good analyst. And if you ever listen to him analyze different fights, you'll see that Spence really knows his boxing. So, from that perspective, it's another reason why, even though I think that Book should beat him, Book needs to be careful, because this guy kind of knows, he has great powers of analysis, okay, and people with that type of power of analysis, they tend to be good fighters. You see, good, not just good fighters, but people like that tend to be good boxers, good basketball players, good scientists, good at everything, because perception. He has great powers of perception. And people that have great powers of perception are usually good at things that they do, because they can see what other people can't see, and that's what that's the thing about boxing, and the difference between good and great boxers is is being able to see. It's like Mayweather, when Mayweather fights somebody, he's seen everything that's going on around him. You see, this is the thing about people like that. They can see. They see everything that's happening. It's almost like it's going in slow motion. And usually people like that, when they fight, before they even fight you, they already fought you 1,000 times in their mind already. And they already figured out all the different things that can happen in the fight, even before the fight even actually happened. So when they come into the ring to fight you, they're prepared mentally, and this is how you beat people in boxing. You beat them mentally. Everything is mental at the end of the day. So people with that kind of perception usually already won the fight in their mind before they even come in the ring. You see, and so when they come in the ring, all they have to do is now just execute. You see, and this is where the rubber meets the road, because some people can execute and then some can't. Even though they have the power of perception, some of them can't really execute. And so Mayweather is one of those type of person who can execute, and so is Book and Spence. So I respect that kind of those powers of perception, and you can't sleep on people like that. So Book, gotta go in that. I hope he's really preparing for this fight, because again, even though I think he's gonna win, and he should win, it shouldn't be a tough fight, because again, I think that he has what it takes to really beat Spence. But you can't really sleep on Spence because of his, he has great powers of perception, and you can see that every time you hear him talk. So again, so we see, like I said, that Spence have a lot of respect for Brook. Again, remember what he said? He said that he did better. He said Brook did better than everybody else thought he would do. So he wasn't one of those people that thought Brook wasn't going to win. He actually was convinced enough to bet $400. Okay, and he tried to clean up a little bit by saying at the end, if you watch the whole video, because I'm just showing you a clip because of fair use. So when you go to Radio Raheem and you watch the whole thing, you'll see what he said. He said something like about it's about he bet on him to win, and because the odds was so good and all that. But that's odds or no odds. You're not gonna bet on somebody. You're not gonna spend $400 or spend your money on something that somebody you think is going to lose, no matter what the odds are, you know what I mean? So he actually thought Brook was going to win the fight. He didn't just think that Brook was going to win, he was convinced of it. Okay, and so was I, and so was anybody that really knows boxing. Okay, because if you have the skill, again, I'm gonna tell you, skills pays the bills all the time, and so it doesn't matter. A guy could be strong, big, powerful. It doesn't really make anything, because boxing is an art and a science. And if you know the art and the science of boxing, you can beat almost anyone. You know what I mean? And it's just that simple. And so, I can see that Spence knows his boxing. And if you look at the clip, you saw what he said at the beginning of the clip. He said when Radio Raheem asked him, well, about the fight, he said, I hope he vacates. He said, I hope he vacates, because I don't want to wait until next summer to fight, because, oh, come on now, what's your rush? I mean, in a way, he's probably thinking, man, this guy is going to be a tough fight, man. I hope he really vacates this title so I can just go in there and because he knows what time it is. He knows this fight is going to be tough. You know what I mean? He knows it's not going to be easy, okay? And he knows that there's a chance he's going to lose. Okay, now being the kind of person he is, he's still going to go in there and give it his best. But he knows what he's up against, and if he knows his boxing, then he knows exactly what he's up against. And so I already know that he's going to come in the fight prepared. So Brook better come prepared. Spence is coming prepared because he knows what he has to deal with. Okay. This is the guy who he bet to beat Golovkin. So he knows who he has to deal with. He knows that Brook is no joke, So he's going to come in there ready and as prepared as he can, So he's training his ass off. I know that for a fact. Come on. You can see it for yourself. He has big respect for Brook, okay? And so, again, this is going to be an interesting fight, and I can't wait for the fight to happen, really. So I think basically again that I think Brook is gonna school him to a certain degree, and it is what it is though. But I'm pretty sure he'll put up a good fight, okay. But when you see this clip and you see what he said about Brook, watch the whole clip. You'll see the whole clip what he said about Brook. He said a couple other things about Brook as well. He said he made it because of what Brook did, that all these guys now think that they can beat Golovkin. He said that as well, because of what Brook did. So he basically he's saying that Brook laid the blueprint out, okay, which is what Brook is saying. So he's kind of agreeing with that, you know what I mean? That Brook laid out the blueprint and how to beat Golovkin, and he did. So, for all the haters out there, and the people, the so-called analysts who think they know about boxing and know how to analyze fights, they need to take a page from the very guy, Spence, who they're supporting against Brook. Listen to what he's saying, because he's telling you something if you can see it. Okay, so for those who has ears, let them hear. So it is what it is. So I'm going to leave it right there, and again, my prediction for this fight is going to be Brook by TKO somewhere around the 9th, 10th, or the 11th round. It's going to be a late stoppage, by TKO, So that's how I see this fight playing out in the end, you know. And so I'm gonna leave it right there. So this is TBE signing off. I'm gonna see you on the next one.